watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. And we are tracking a lot of things going on this Friday, including Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd holding a news conference right now with Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier. We will have more on that for you in just a little bit. We're also going to take you to a ceremony going on in Orlando for this National POW and MIA Recognition Day. So that is on our radar here, and we will get you more on that coming up in just a little bit here on Fox Local. But we begin today following up as we learn more about the death of this guest who had just ridden Stardust Racers when he was found unresponsive. Let me give you a live look right now at Epic Universe, where that roller coaster in the center of the park remains closed at this moment for a second straight day following the death of a 32-year-old Wednesday at Epic Universe. Now, the medical examiner says that man died from multiple blunt impact injuries. And Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie has more as a witness described the scary scene when that man was discovered unresponsive.
We heard from Kevin Zavala's family, and they tell us that he and his girlfriend were at the Epic Universe theme park Wednesday night for a fun night out, but it sadly ended in tragedy. According to the medical examiner's report, it says he died from multiple blunt impact injuries. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. That ride was closed all day yesterday, and this is what it shows when you look at the ride on the Universal app. Tommy Italiano was second in line, about to board the roller coaster. Listen to what he had to say about what happened.
We saw the lady jump over the railing, and we later found out that she was a doctor, and she went to administer emergency aid.
Italiano says he saw the unresponsive man still strapped in the seat, and people were panicking because no one had their phones. Riders are required to check their belongings into a locker before riding. In a statement, a Universal spokesperson calls the incident tragic, also saying, quote, "We are devastated by this event and extend our sincerest sympathies to the guests' loved ones." According to the Universal app, the Stardust Racers ride is also going to be shut down today. We are still working to find out more information on what happened. Reporting in Orlando, Amanda McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Certainly a frightening situation to hear the witnesses and others who were there at the time describe what they saw. Still a lot of questions about this as well. Joining me live now via Zoom is Kim Wald. She is a personal injury trial attorney and a partner at the Haggard Law Firm. And we also know an attorney who represented the family of Tyre Sampson in their civil suit following that 14-year-old's death. From the Orlando FreeFall ride at Icon Park back in 2022. And Kim, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you for having us.
Kim, some of these details are beginning to come out, but still a lot we don't know. Just give me your first reaction when you heard about what happened and some of what we were learning so far.
So when I first heard what happened, my first thought was not again. You know, this is absolutely the worst thing that you can ever hear about, especially at an amusement park where you're supposed to be able to go and just have fun. You know, representing the family of Tyre Sampson, we learned that there's a lot of things that need to be done behind the scenes to make sure that these rides are safe and that people don't get injured on these rides. And as we start learning more information, we need to figure out exactly what happened on this ride and make sure that it couldn't have been prevented.
So is that some part of what's happening now? Kind of take us behind the scenes. I know you would be familiar with what happens after something like this. What is going on right now when it comes to an investigation into this?
So there's going to be an investigation on a multi-point front here. First, Universal itself will be conducting their own investigation. We also know that the Department of Agriculture was on scene and is going to be involved. The extent of their involvement, again, is not really known at this time because Universal, because of the size of their park and the nature of their employees, they're usually exempt from the Department of Agriculture and the inspections that the state typically does. Universal conducts their own inspections of these rides and then reports to the Department of Agriculture when there are problems. We know that the local law enforcement will also be part of this, and the investigations are really going to be on all three of those fronts, both from Universal, the Department of Agriculture, and local law enforcement.
What is the responsibility of Universal or any theme park and ride operators when it comes to this, and what sort of standards there are?
So there are many standards that exist, the ASTM standards, which are engineering standards and guidelines. They have an obligation, a duty to inspect these rides. We know that this is a German manufacturer of this ride, and they have to make sure that this ride operates safely, that there are no hazards, that there are no ways that a person can die from blunt force trauma when they are riding this type of a coaster. And so these are all questions that we're going to find the answers to when we get more information, when the medical examiner releases perhaps more information specifically detailing how these injuries occurred, where they occurred, the nature of the injuries themselves, where the blunt force trauma was. We also know in this particular case, the harness itself was only a lap harness. Should there have perhaps been a harness over your chest area to protect that? Again, we have to know more about the extent of the injuries, and then we're going to be able to fill in the gaps of what could have or should have been done to prevent a tragedy like this from occurring.
We also know there are often warnings when you're walking up to any ride at theme parks and places where it will kind of tell you maybe if you have certain issues not to get on this ride. I'm wondering what that does to protect entities from potential legal action in cases like this.
So in the case that we had previously, the Tyre Sampson case, the manufacturer actually had specific limitations about weight of individuals on a ride. And in that case, there weren't any warnings. And Tyre never should have actually been on that ride in the first place because he was too heavy. The harness didn't fit. And if there was a safety belt that installed, which there wasn't, that never would have clipped. So knowing what the manufacturer's recommendations are, what recommendations from similar rides and similar manufacturers are for this particular ride is going to be absolutely critical. What warnings should have been in place? If the warnings were in place, were they sufficient? Were they properly communicated? We know that this ride has only been open for a few months, and so all of these questions are still unknown at this time.
Kim, you talk about Tyre, and that was obviously a tragedy, first of all, but a case that has gotten a lot of attention. I'm wondering if you could talk about some of the lessons that we can take away from that and that kind of civil suit coming to an end, and how this applies and what we can learn from that as we move forward.
One of the most important lessons from Tyre's case was the transparency and learning the information as we received it. When we learned that there was a manipulation done to the seat that Tyre was on, that was absolutely critical information, because in that case, there were these free falls operating all throughout the United States and abroad. So knowing what actually was the failure in that case was critical for public safety. So for this particular case, my hope is once they know what happens, that information is immediately released to the public. Because if that can help any other ride that is currently operating and any person that's going on the rides, we need to know about that information now. That can't just stay hidden while the investigation continues.
Do you expect this ride, the Stardust Racers, to remain closed for a while? What's the process look like from here?
So the process, I anticipate it will be closed, whether it's a matter of weeks, whether it's a matter of months. That really depends on what they find out. They're going to be doing a number of testing. They'll probably be bringing in some independent engineers to do testing of the ride. They're going to be scavenging if there are any video surveillance showing exactly where the failure occurred, when this individual stopped breathing, when the individual had those blunt force traumas occur. All of that is going to be critical to when or if this ride can reopen.
Kim, what should people know and what should they keep in mind anytime they go to ride a ride, no matter where it is?
Be cognizant, be aware, make sure you are reading those signs. If you're too tall for the ride, don't try to do it. If you're too heavy for the ride, if you have fears, if you have any of those pre-existing conditions, we know these rides are supposed to be for fun and for amusement, but they can turn dangerous and in some situations can turn deadly. So it is not worth the risk. If you fit into one of those categories, please take that seriously. We don't want to see any of these other injuries or horribly deaths occur again.
Kim Wald, attorney for the family of Tyre Sampson, a partner at the Haggard Law Firm and a personal injury trial attorney. I really appreciate your time and your insight in this matter, and thanks for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. All right, we're clear. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, heading into our final weekend of summer.
It's amazing, and what a long, hot summer it's been. You know, Garrett, the irony here, though, is that as we head toward the first full week of fall, it's actually going to be hotter and more humid than it will be rounding out the last week of summer. But that's Florida for you. The only real difference in the season here is the sun angle, it seems like, oftentimes. And we're getting the shorter days and a little bit of a different sun angle, but it's much the same as far as the heat goes. One thing we'll feel a difference of is a lower rain chance over the next couple of days. A look at the satellite imagery, though, reveals a flow off of the Atlantic coming in from the northeast, and that has resulted in a couple of showers, especially in Brevard County this morning, and that'll be our hot spot for rain chances today, about a 30 to 40% chance. But inland and across the northern beaches, like here at Daytona, there's only about a 20% chance for a passing shower. The takeaway, today and tomorrow will be beautiful, with temperatures in the morning in the low to mid 80s, in the afternoon topping out near 90. Just a chance for a stray shower. Good news for Friday night football tonight for the high school games around the region, and great news for tomorrow's UCF game with Bill Belichick in town for that big face-off with the old Patriots legendary coach now with the Knights. So we're really getting a nice weather window here as far as everything goes. Now for today, we've got a 20% chance in Orlando, 30% chance though at the coast thanks to that flow off of the Atlantic. We've got a couple of showers that have been moving around. Here's a look at future clouds and radar. A lot of action for South Florida based on this wind direction, but for Central Florida, there's just too much dry air in the mid levels of the atmosphere to really get stuff going. But there's a chance around 6 or 7. We may see a couple of downpours developing in Gainesville, Ocala, Salt Springs area, north of the villages. Other than that, things will be dry. So again, good forecast ahead. 90 today in Orlando, 92 in Gainesville. A little hotter as you go north because there will be a little bit more sunshine. The northeast flow off the Atlantic won't be producing as many clouds, so it'll allow for more sun to reach the ground. About 86 in Melbourne, a little cooler there thanks to the onshore flow off of an Atlantic Ocean right now, which is running at about 83 degrees. So it's a little cooler, so you get a little bit of a sea breeze cooling effect. All right, let's talk tropics, your tropical update. Gabrielle, a tropical storm, is enduring shear from the west, a wind shear that's blowing the clouds toward the east, and that means that those thunderstorms, which would otherwise be breathing new life into the system, are offset from the center, limiting its strengthening potential. That said, it is showing more thunderstorm activity today than it was yesterday. Remember, we were talking about that naked system where it was like, you know, if the clothes are thunderstorms, and tropical systems need thunderstorms to survive, there are no clothes. But today, at least, it's got storms on the right-hand side of the circulation. And the forecast for this system is as it travels farther north and west over the next few days, it'll encounter a more favorable atmospheric environment to support tropical systems and warmer ocean waters. And that should allow it to strengthen into a Category 1 and then ultimately Category 2 hurricane before curving out to sea east of Bermuda. But it could provide some pretty good wave action for our region by the end of next week, which would up our rip current risk, making for dangerous swimming, but the surfers would be loving it. Elsewhere in the Atlantic, we got to watch this blob carefully. Not to write it off, it only has a 20% chance now, this blob being a region where we may see development. A tropical wave moving off of Africa will be slow to organize thanks to its wind shear and dry air encounters. Now, if this does get a name down the road, and after Gabrielle, the next name is the H name, it's Umberto, so we'll see. But there are some long-range indications suggesting that in its current form as a weak tropical wave, really just upper-level disturbance and a little bit of a mid-level disturbance, it'll work all the way across the Atlantic Ocean and then enter the Caribbean, which could pose a problem for future development come early October, and that could affect potentially land areas if that was to happen. Hopefully this one just dies on the vine, but there may be more behind it. So we've got to start watching things in our own backyard here in the Gulf and in the Western Caribbean for development that could impact us. October happens to be Florida's most active month as far as direct impacts go from tropical systems. So unfortunately, we're not out of the woods yet. But we will have a nice few drier days ahead today, tomorrow, and maybe into Sunday before the first day of fall comes Monday. And then, well, it gets more humid, warms up a little bit more, and we see a higher chance for afternoon thunderstorms. Garrett.
Overall, not too bad of a weekend by the looks of it.
It's going to be good. It'll be really nice for the pool or the beach or the golf or really any outdoor activity. So I'm giving you some ideas now. But yeah, all the talk is that big UCF game with the star power Belichick now bringing his skills, right?
Yeah, it's going to be one to watch. That's for sure.
It sure will.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
You got it. Thanks, Garrett.
I want to get you live now inside this ceremony going on at the Dr. Phillips Center. This is the city's commemoration of National POW MIA Recognition Day, so a day to recognize prisoners of war and others missing in action. One of the things that is getting ready to happen here, the Mayor's Veterans Advisory Council is presenting the symbolic missing man table. Let's go ahead and listen in as the ceremony continues live.
And families today. So we join together to pay our humble tributes to them and bear witness to their continued absence. This table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the fortuity of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The table is white, the tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood that many have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents the yellow ribbons worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us tonight. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us today. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our heart to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of a grateful nation. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families.
Playing of taps after the unveiling of the missing man table. That ceremony continuing. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this. A live look right now at downtown Orlando on this Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. And we appreciate you joining us. Garrett Wymer here on Fox 35 News Plus. Certainly somber moments inside that ceremony. I do want to note that the keynote speaker in that ceremony who spoke a few minutes ago is Jessica Lynch. She's a former prisoner of war herself. She was injured and captured back in 2003. And it was 9 days later that U.S. Special Operations Forces ended up being able to rescue her. So she shared her story today, spoke with reporters as well, and we'll hear more from her coming up in a little bit here on Fox Local. But I want to get you to Polk County, where Sheriff Grady Judd was joined by the Florida Attorney General James Uffmeyer and a number of other officials as well for a lengthy news conference this morning that just wrapped up a few minutes ago as well. They were talking about what they called Operation Fool Around and Find Out Again, announcing 246 arrests in a 7-day undercover operation. Like I said, a number of agencies were involved in this. It's centered on human trafficking, child predators, and illegal immigration. And here's what we learned from that news conference just moments ago.
There were 246 arrests in only a 7-day operation. 230 human trafficking arrests included 99 Johns, 111 prostitutes, and 20 other arrests. One of the things that I'm going to camp on and begin with my comments in a few minutes was the fact that we arrested 16 travelers. That's right. They were sexual deviants that thought they were coming to a home to have sex with a child. And many times wonky, crazy, nasty, vile, ugly sex. Not that all of it's not with a child, but at a higher level. We're going to talk about many of them. We actually located 10 potential victims of human trafficking. Listen, folks, when I tell you that not only were 219 arrests from the state of Florida, 37 were from Polk County. Now, you would think of all the places, the people in Polk County would understand not to show up, since we do this often and we arrest 200 plus every time. But it goes to show, even in our county, there's still a few people that live under rocks. There's 11 other states that are represented in those that were arrested. The state of Washington, California, North Carolina, New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia, Texas, and Nevada. 26 of the people that were arrested were married. 18 was the youngest person we arrested. 67 was the oldest one. We also had people on government assistance. Now, I have to point them out. You know, our CFO is really interested in waste. Well, think about it. You, the hardworking people, were out making money, earning money, paying taxes, and they were being paid to violate the law. And I imagine there were more of them, but this is the ones we identified. Of course, we arrested 9 that had a military background. 1 was active Army, 5 previous Army in addition to the 1, 2 Air Force, 1 Navy, 1 National Guard. 15 firearms were brought to the operation by different suspects. One of the 15 firearms was stolen, and we recovered it. Of course, what would an operation be if we didn't arrest theme park employees? We had 2 from Universal arrested and 2 from Disney arrested. 32 people were charged with drug possession. 3 individuals had active warrants. 16 individuals had prior prostitution charges. And 7 of those were from previous operations we've done. They showed up again. They like us so much. They like the jail so much. They wanted to come go to jail again with us. 2 of them were from the Fool Around and Find Out that we had just a few months ago. 2 of them came back for a second trip. Well, you know good and well that they got 2 brain cells, okay? And they used 1 on the first one and 1 on the second. They have 0 brain cells left now. March Sadness, 2 came back that we arrested in that operation. Operation Traffic Stop in 2023, we got 1 of those back. In Operation Fall Haul in 2022, I guess they have a short memory. We have those back. Now, some people would say, oh, they're not such bad people. Well, these folks had a total of 706 previous charges, 317 felonies, 389 misdemeanors. And we lodged against these folks new charges, 371 new charges. So let's go through really, really quick. I always want to start with our child sex predators. These are the nastiest of the nastiest. This is Trey Taunton. He's 40 years of age. He lives in Mineola in Central Florida. He's a psychological therapist, and he worked for family life counselors in Lake County. Now, let me tell you what makes him so scary. His job was to counsel at-risk children, and at-risk children are traditionally those that are the easiest and the most vulnerable to be groomed. Family Life Counselors has fired him, and before that, he was a swim coach at the Mount Verde Academy in Lake County, where he was around pre-K to 12, from pre-K to 12th grade. Now, I underscore, he did not work for Mount Verde Academy when this occurred. They fired him, or he left their employment in 2024. And you know what his profound statement was when he was arrested? My husband is going to divorce me when he hears about this. Well, not only does he hear about it, he gets to see it right here. He told the undercover male who was 15 that he loves oral sex and kinky sex. Now, this guy shows up at a house thinking he's going to have kinky sex with a child. Now, here's the interesting part. When he was working through a time, he called the undercover and said, my counseling appointment has canceled, so I can be there about 4 in the afternoon. I can get off work early. Well, he arrived and went to jail because we were there protecting the community. And then there's Christopher Williams. He's from Orlando. He's 31. He works for Positive Behavioral Solutions as a psychological and social rehabilitation specialist coordinator. I'm not sure what that means, but I do know what child sex predator means, and that's what he is. He was immediately fired. And he talked to the father thinking that the father was negotiating a deal for there to be sex with a little 13-year-old girl. He's charged with human trafficking. And we could tell by the way he conducted himself, this was not the first time he was in that position. And of course, this person did not actually travel, but he engaged what he thought was a child on the internet. This is Robert Hill. He's 56 from Lake Placid. He's a sergeant with the Department of Corrections. He had worked for them since 2019, so he was on the outside keeping people in, and now he's on the inside of the jail, and we're protecting children from him. And he's wearing this shirt that I really like. I used to be a people person, then people ruined it. Well, the reality, he was trying to ruin children's lives, but our detectives stopped that. He used extremely graphic language, very, very graphic language, and he was also trying to groom the parent to have sex with a child. And then there's Louis Macalino. He's 62 from Davenport. He's a CEO for Heritage Assisted Living Facility in Plant City. Now, I want you to think about this. The assisted living facility in Plant City Heritage, he's the CEO, and he's out grooming and trying to have sex with 15-year-old boys. He's been married 35 years. Oh, by the way, he resisted. But we do appreciate the fact that Louis' vehicle was paid off because we've seized that, and our plan is to use it in future operations to catch more bad guys.
That was Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd just minutes ago, just beginning that news conference there. We've got more to get to from that I want to bring you. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll get you right back to that news conference. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd speaking just moments ago at the Polk County Sheriff's Office, talking about 246 people arrested in a week-long undercover operation. Let's go ahead and listen back in.
A lot of kids. He confessed. And he also confessed that on a previous occasion, he had sex with a 17-year-old male in Osceola County. We have the very fine sheriff with us today from Osceola. His team's looking further into this. They did say he was polite. I guess McDonald's taught him well to take care and be nice. But he's in jail because he was trying to have sex with a child. And then there's Hugo Dos Santos from Kissimmee. He's 39. He's a legal assistant at Grand Vacations Timeshare. He's married. He said, "Oh, I hate this because now I'm not going to be able to adopt children." Well, duh. It's going to be difficult because we're going to try to send you to prison for a long time. He was extremely graphic and wanted to have sex with a 15-year-old boy. Grand Vacation says they've suspended him, but they didn't say they'd fired him. I don't know. We don't allow cell phones in the jail or the prison system. I don't know how he's going to continue to work. And then there's Spencer Englehart. He's 26 from Mineola. He once again was talking to undercovers, thinking he was negotiating with a father to have sex with a 13-year-old female. He was very graphic. And then when we arrested him, he said he was doing his own investigation and he was going to notify law enforcement later. Wink, wink, nod, nod, right? Oh, he had a gun in the car. He was charged with human trafficking. But it's important to point out that that is the worst of the worst of the worst, because they're trying to attack your children. But let me go over this group. This is our human trafficking arrest, and we've just pulled a few of them out. Then I'm going to turn it over to our Attorney General. This is Jabaz Lowe. He's 24. He's from Poinciana. What's interesting about Jabaz is he was a member of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. He was a recruit and in the academy. Now, he didn't tell us that, so he lied to us during the investigation. I can't imagine why he didn't want to tell us that he was a recruit for Orange County Sheriff's Office. But you know what? Orange County Sheriff's Office came here and fired him really quick. I believe it's safe to say that his law enforcement career was over before it began, and he didn't get it. And it's shocking to all of us because this is a guy that passed the background, the polygraph, and the psychological. He was an Army veteran. But the good news is we caught him soon when he was soliciting sex, because otherwise, had he been able to keep his composure, he would have been a law enforcement officer, but no more because of the great professional work. And then there's Kiera Marie Johnson from DeLand. This is a guy. He's 33. He's a DoorDash tech support as his employer. He wanted to have sex. Oh, by the way, we caught him in May in another operation exactly like this. He was adjudicated guilty. Our state attorney prosecuted him, got him a 6-month sentence, which is a sentence of probation, which is a pretty good sentence for a quote-unquote first-time offender, on September 10th. We arrested him on September the 11th when he came back. He's what we call a slow learner. But he's also in jail on top of this for a violation of probation. And Mr. Haas says, I believe we can deal with this guy. Now, you understand some of these deviants will not change their way, and the only way to keep them from trying to attack victims is when they're locked up in jail. That's the only way. Then there's Brittany Finney, 37. This was an online ad. She says, I do in-call only. And here's what she said in her advertisement. No affiliation with any type of law enforcement of any kind in any way, and F. Shady Grady. Now that just warmed my heart. She's got a long criminal history. She had 28 previous arrests. Sweetie, welcome to the county jail. Stephen Saul de Jesus Colon. He's 34 from Kissimmee. He's a former corrections officer for the city of New York. He currently owns JJ's Auto Towing, and he arrived in his tow truck. And he wanted to have sex with a female. So he arrived in his tow truck, and then we hooked his tow truck up to our tow truck, and we towed him back this way. And then after we got his tow truck out of the way, then we put him in our van, and we took him this way to the county jail. Now, I guess maybe he had a friend or either a Uber, because he didn't have a tow truck to ride away from the county jail when he got out. And then there's Richard Gashaw. He's 54. He's from Dayton, Texas. If you're ever in Dayton, Texas, he owns Rooster's Bar there. But he was here visiting his mother, who was very sick and in the hospital. And even though he owns Rooster's Bar there, he wanted to come here and have sex with a woman. So let me picture this for a second, okay? He's married. For years he's married to this lady in Texas. She's probably there running the bar while he comes to visit his mother. That's what good wives do. And now he's laid up with a prostitute, or at least he tried to until we caught him. Well, I bet that made the old rooster cock-a-doodle-doo. Any old, I won't finish that. And then there's Waymo from Oviedo. He says he's a nuclear engineer and he's self-employed, and he wanted to have sex with a female. We may be a nuclear engineer. We don't have any call for those at the jail, but hey, he may be able to learn a new trade while he's locked up in jail, like trustee, handing out food service or something like that. Then there's Samuel Dew. He's from Apopka. He's 43. He's a retired software engineer. He's a coder, okay? But as my guy said, he might have been a coder in software, but it didn't compute very well for him here. And he said, well, I don't like going to a bar to chase women. He just wanted to save money, just, cut right to it, just pay for it, and let's go on. What he doesn't understand is he was coming here, and many of his victims may very well have been the victims of human trafficking. Now, I want to camp one more second on this, illegal aliens. There were 46, I believe, illegal aliens that we arrested in this operation. Now, you would think if there was ever a time that you were in a foreign country illegally with a president of the United States and Governor DeSantis saying, if you're here illegally, starting with the worst first, we're going to deport you, the last thing you'd want to do is commit crime and draw attention to yourself. But duh, they showed up to violate the law. Now, all of them have ice holes on them. Several of them have already been picked up by ICE. The others are with us until ICE picks them up. And ultimately, when they finish their business with Mr. Haas, then they will be deported. So it's nice that we were able to scoop up 46 in just 7 days. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look out for the victims of human traffickers, and we arrested those. We're going to look out for the children. And now I'm going to introduce to you our Attorney General who gets it, who understands that when we all work together, and he ensures that we coalesce.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd speaking in this news conference just a few moments ago in Polk County. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hear from the Attorney General and the CFO Blazin Golia. So keep it here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be right back with more after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Attorney General James Uthmeyer taking the podium in Polk County just a few minutes ago. Let's go ahead and listen back into this news conference as they talk about these human trafficking and child predator arrests.
40 plus arrests. But I think what's really significant here is that collectively all these guys that are being arrested, they combine for over 650 prior charges. Charge after charge after charge, and yet they get out and they keep committing crimes. They keep victimizing people, victimizing children. We saw this recent case in North Carolina, this brutal murder on a train. Again, a guy that had been released 14 different times. Soft on crime policies do not work. I'll tell you what, you got a great state attorney here and our team of statewide prosecutors. We're not giving out get-out-of-jail-free cards. We're going to put these guys away for as long as we can. We're going to get them off the streets, and we're going to protect our kids. When I took the oath of office at the beginning of the year, I made a promise to Floridians that priority one would be protecting our kids, combating human trafficking, and getting as many child predators off the streets. And we've worked up and down the state with law enforcement, and we've done that. A record number of arrests, a record number of convictions. We will continue to get every one of these sick people off the streets. Parents at home need to wake up. In today's world with technology, evil people are finding new ways to get to your kids. It's real. This is proof of that. 240 plus arrests in one sting. And it keeps happening over and over and over again. The sheriff pointed out the large number of illegal immigrants in this case. You know, I don't believe 1 out of 4 or 5 people walking down the street is an illegal immigrant. But every time we do one of these criminal takedowns, there's a disproportionately high number of criminals that are here illegally. It shows the nature of what's happened under the open border policies that President Obama and Biden promoted. You've got drug trafficking, human trafficking, and tons of crime coming in through the border and impacting local communities across Continued crime rates increasing, murders. And here in Florida, we got big cities. We don't have those problems. And it's not that hard to figure out. We back these guys. We back our law enforcement. We give them the resources they need. We support them. And ultimately, we arrest bad guys and we lock them up. And we're not going to let them out. So I appreciate the work of everybody here. Our prosecutors are going to bring the heat to put these cases to bed. Thanks to our sheriffs, our law enforcement, and Sheriff Grady Judd for having us.
Blaise Ngolia, Chief Financial Officer of the great state of Florida. First, thank you, Sheriff, for what you're doing and you continue to do. And I want to personally thank everyone here who has been involved in this operation. I wish we didn't have an opportunity to do press conferences like this. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have this situation. I will tell you that my office, we have a law enforcement division. Our office contributed hundreds of hours of man hours to get this done. So if they're listening to me right now, thank you for being involved in that also. And I will say this, is that if there is any law enforcement agency out there, Sheriff, you have my commitment. Sheriff, you have my commitment that if you are going to run these operations in the future, which I know that you will do, I am committed to helping you guys. So please call upon us to help you so we can continue doing this. I have seen these stings happen firsthand. As a member of the legislature, if you've tracked some of the bills that I've written and laws that I have passed, yeah, a lot of them had to do with spending. A lot of them had to do with illegal immigration, trying to stop this particularly from happening. But a lot of them had to do with protecting kids. We had written a bill, a law, that gave grants through FDLE to local law enforcement agencies, giving them the tools to run these sting operations. I had an opportunity to be inside the rooms with the detectives and law enforcement, communicating as if they were children, and the most amazing and disgusting thing happened as soon as they turned the switch on. They were getting flooded with offers to have sex with underage kids. And this is some of probably the most heinous conversations you will ever hear an adult have with a child. I'm seeing some of the heads bobbing in the front, so you've probably seen some of this. It is absolutely disgusting what our kids are subjected to. I'm going to talk to the people at home right now because I've seen this. They have seen this. Our AG has seen this. Our sheriffs have seen this firsthand. Protect your kids because you have no idea the depravity that is out there waiting to take advantage, take hold of your children and to abuse them and turn their lives upside down for things as seemingly innocent as a coloring book app. These kids are being targeted by online sexual predators for the purposes of destroying their souls. If you were able to see some of the things that I have seen, what law enforcement have seen, you would double and triple and quadruple the time that you watch your children because they are unrelenting. We as parents, we need to continue being unrelenting. But I'm going to talk now specifically to one group of people because I think this is very, very important. We have led on this issue at the state, and that is a lot of these tech companies are in a state of either de facto protecting these predators or just outright protecting these predators. It is very difficult for law enforcement to get the proof that they need to prosecute some of these online sexual predators in a court of law. And the reason being is a lot of these tech companies, social media companies in particular, don't get me wrong, some of them wind up with good relationships with law enforcement, they attempt to try to police themselves. But a lot of this stuff is now going away in the form of disappearing messages, in the form of encryption. These social media companies really need to be held accountable in destroying evidence. And I'm saying that I believe, in my opinion, they are destroying evidence. Because if you have a conversation with the 63-year-old man communicating with the 12-year-old boy online, when the 12-year-old boy is thinking that he's talking to his 14 or 15-year-old online friend playing some online games, and there's a 62, 65-year-old man grooming this person to have a sexual encounter with later, but what's actually happening is the social media companies are hiding behind privacy in disappearing messages so law enforcement can't get the information. And the conversation goes something like this. That is absolutely heinous. We're going to put that SOB behind bars. Show me the proof. And then when they go back to try to get the proof, the messages are gone. They're disappearing because now there's new disappearing messages on a lot of social media accounts. Social media companies should, in my opinion, stop the encryption of any message that has a minor account, so law enforcement can have the tools that they need to put these scumbags away for life. So with that, just want to reiterate, if you're a parent out there, watch your kids, because I think it's pretty obvious you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what jobs that they hold. It may not be online. Protect your kids as if their lives depend on it, because it actually does.
As the CFO speaking at that news conference just moments ago in Polk County, we also heard from an attorney and a victim, as well as DCF and the Osceola County Sheriff. We will hear from them on the other side of this break, so keep it here on Fox 35 News Plus. We've got more to come after this.
These things don't just happen.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. We are getting you back inside this news conference that wrapped up just a little bit ago in Polk County so that you didn't miss anything. Hearing from an attorney and a victim. Also going to hear from a couple of other speakers as well. So let's go ahead and listen back in.
And it's because of our victims and to protect our society. So it's an honor of a lifetime for me to serve alongside with folks like Sheriff Grady Judd and our wonderful law enforcement partners as we make sure that we do everything we can to keep our community safe. And we'll be back here again and again and again. This is not the last one. This is certainly not the first one. But you know, I began my career as a prosecutor 25 years ago this month. And one of the things I learned very quickly was that there's not a whole lot of people that stand up for some of these victims. And oftentimes when they become victims in cases, it may be the first time that someone has an opportunity to advocate and help them. And that's what we're going to do for our human trafficking victims, make sure we're doing everything we can to get them the services they need and hopefully get them on the right path to making sure that they have the best life that they can. So my prosecutors and I stand ready to pursue these cases, hold these defendants accountable, make them pay their debt to society, and ensure that we continue to have a great place to live, work, and visit. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mark Brutnell, the FDOE specialist in charge for FDOE Tampa. I'm honored to stand here today with these amazing professionals. I just want to also thank the investigative team. Great job on this. The state attorney mentioned it, a lot of long hours, a lot of investigative techniques went into this. To arrest 246 people, that's a big undertaking. Job well done. Commissioner Mark Lash with FDLE, our AG and our CFO, our Florida cabinet, kids are their top priority. They don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. And I want to thank you, General, for your support on that. I think one of the takeaways today has been parents, have those hard conversations with your kids. It's tough, but you have to do that. Set some guidelines and some guardrails to save your kids from monsters like this. If you need some help with those conversations, there's plenty of places to go. You can go to secureflorida.org. There's tips to have those conversations with your kids, but also the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is a great resource to have those hard conversations. Again, I just want to say on behalf of FDLE and Commissioner Glass, excellent work. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Thomas. I'm the founder and president of My Name, My Voice, and we are a network that bridges community service providers with law enforcement so that we reduce harm in these spaces. First, I want to begin by thanking Sheriff Grady Judd and the entire Polk County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Judd does something that many law enforcement agencies overlook. He connects service providers directly with the people who need them. That partnership matters. It saves lives, restores dignity, and creates pathways to real change. The recent undercover operation focused on human trafficking. Our goal was not only to identify victims and help them exit exploitation, but also to meet every person caught up in this operation as a human being. At My Name, My Voice, we believe everyone, whether victim, buyer, or seller, has a story, a history, and a capacity for change. Some people do need long-term confinement for the safety of society and children. Others, though, can change when given the opportunity to understand the harm they've caused and the trauma that shaped their choices. We hear people say, "It's my choice." But when the choice is do this or lose your home, we have to ask ourselves if that's really a choice at all. Trauma and desperation narrow options until they become chains. We exist to widen those options again with compassion, resources, and accountability. During this operation, My Name, My Voice spoke with over 180 individuals. Of those, several asked for follow-up services or referrals. In total, My Name, My Voice assisted 28 people with post-release needs while maintaining a sense of individuality within the holding area. Each of these small connections matters, because each one creates a doorway to a different future. This is why lived experience advocates are so important. Survivors know the terrain. We know how to meet people where they are without judgment, and we know how to bridge the gap between law enforcement services and human beings who are hurting. When survivors lead in these spaces, the work becomes more trauma-informed, more effective, and ultimately more humane. I want to personally thank the men and women I worked alongside this week. I appreciate what you do from the bottom of my heart. When I was being trafficked, I met good officers who helped change the path I was on. I know you all do that, quietly, every single day. The operation showed me again what is possible when law enforcement and survivor-led organizations collaborate. Finally, as we move forward, let's remember our guiding principle at My Name, My Voice, to be a bridge that elevates survivor voices and transforms support systems. When we center survivor voices, we reduce harm. When we treat every person, even those accused, as human beings, we open the door to real accountability and change. Thank you for this opportunity, for your partnership, and for your dedication to making Polk County a safer and more compassionate place. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Saini Dressler, and I serve as the Senior Director of Anti-Trafficking Operations with One More Child in the state of Florida. One More Child has served victims, families, and children for over 120 years, offering direct care service, prevention, and advocacy. Last week, our anti-trafficking teams joined the Polk Sheriff's Office on the ground each night during their most recent operation. I want to thank and commend Sheriff Judd and his team for their ongoing leadership and deep commitment for ending exploitation in our communities. They continue to be one of our most trusted and impactful law enforcement partners. They continue to be the strong leaders in the community that allow agencies like ours to meet survivors where they're at. That week, we were able to communicate with over 60 individuals, of which 36 have already accepted services. We were able to engage them in services such as emergency shelter, mental health counseling, survivor mentorship, and ongoing advocacy. Throughout the operation, our team was able to encounter people that were deeply vulnerable, living some serious, hesitation in their life, but full of hope at many times. However, many of them were just focused on surviving. We understand that not everyone is ready to identify as a victim in that moment, and that is okay. What's important is that we are present, consistent, and ready to offer support whenever they are ready to take that first step. At One More Child, we are committed to providing more than temporary assistance. We offer survivor-informed and long-term support, whether that journey begins during an operation, weeks, or even months afterwards. No one dreams of a life in exploitation. There's always a deeper story behind how they got there. Our role is to help create an opportunity for a new story to begin. Partnerships like this one are essential, but we know that we are only one piece of the solution. We need broader community engagement, tougher consequences for those who are fueling the demand, and a united commitment across every sector to say clearly and firmly, human trafficking will not be tolerated. Finally, I want to recognize the true leaders in this work, our survivor mentors and lived experience experts. These individuals bring a unique and irreplaceable perspective to everything we do. Their stories, their presence, guide us in the services that we're providing. At One More Child, we make it a priority to have a survivor leader during every operation because their insight is valuable and essential. It is now my honor to introduce one of those incredible leaders, someone whose strength, voice, and lived experience continues to inspire change every day. Please welcome Stacy Ham. Thank you.
Good morning. I would like to take a moment to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone involved in the Polk County sting operation. Each operation serves as a powerful reminder that our work to fight exploitation and support survivors is far from over. Throughout this operation, our team was present each night, standing along survivors in their most vulnerable moments and offering immediate care and support. It's an honor for me and other survivor leaders to contribute our lived expertise to law enforcement, helping bring a deeper understanding and a more trauma-informed perspective to these efforts. As someone who personally experienced human trafficking, removal from my biological family, and time in the foster care system, these operations continuously remind me how deeply rooted cycles of exploitation can be and how so many are still caught in those cycles today. Many of the individuals that we encountered during the operation bravely shared their stories, describing how they were misled into exploitation through false promises of safety, stability, and better opportunities. Their stories echo the true reality that traffickers are continuously preying on those vulnerable, especially our youth, those who have aged out of the foster care system, and those who are simply trying to survive and be seen. This work is not easy, but it is so necessary. Every conversation, every connection, and every act of compassion plants a seed of hope, and it reminds survivors that they are not alone. I'm beyond grateful to be a part of a team that shows up with empathy, strength, and an unwavering commitment to helping survivors break these cycles. As a survivor, I have faced fears of speaking up, fears of not being believed, and fears of what might happen if I share my own personal experiences. But through it all, God has given me the strength to keep it going. Choosing to speak has brought me freedom, healing, and the chance to turn my pain into His purpose. My survivor story is just one of so many. There are countless others whose voices are waiting to still be heard, whose journeys matter just as much as mine, if not more. Each story carries pain, strength, and resilience, and together it's a reminder in the world that we are not alone. To any survivor who may be watching or quietly following along, please know that you are seen, you are valued, and your life does carry a greater purpose than the pain that you have been going through. If you are a survivor seeking support or need someone to walk alongside you in your journey, Please know that there are safe people here ready to listen and be that support in your journey. Please know reaching out for support is not a sign of weakness. It's a courageous step towards healing and reclaiming your life. Only together can we continue to shine a light in the darkest places and create pathways to freedom, healing, and dignity. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Katie Ann Parchment. I am the program manager for the Prevention and Diversion program at Heartland for Children. Heartland for Children is the lead community-based care agency under the Department of Children and Families, and we oversee the child welfare system for Polk, Highlands, and Hardy counties. Thank you, Sheriff, for having us once again. Human trafficking is one of the most devastating crimes that someone can be subjected to. Victims are often left with deep physical, emotional, and psychological wounds that often take time, many years to heal from. While Polk County Sheriff Department works diligently to investigate cases, rescue victims, and hold traffickers accountable, we are honored that we are able to walk alongside the Sheriff Department early on in this process to help victims start their healing journey. By working alongside law enforcement, we are able to provide specialized care and support to survivors need truly to rebuild their lives, from helping survivors to connect to emergency housing, social services, counseling, medical care, and many other services through a trauma-informed lens. Our organizations help to ensure that survivors are not just rescued, but restored. The men and women of law enforcement that work tirelessly to make this operation run smoothly are always an excellent example of professionalism, empathy, and determination. Together, we collaborate to create a safe net that supports victims and those at risk of being victimized by providing them with the tools needed to help distance themselves from their abuser. Together, we bring justice, compassion, hope, and community members to the community members of Polk County. If you are listening right now and you are being trafficked, please know this: you are not alone. You are stronger than your current circumstances. There are people ready and able to help you, believe you, and walk with you towards freedom and healing. Your life has value, your story matters, you are loved, and there is hope for a new beginning. If you or someone you know needs help, there are resources available in our community. The Florida Abuse Hotline, 1-800-96-ABUSE. The Florida Human Trafficking Hotline, 1-855-FLA-SAFE. United Way 211, and findhelp.org are just some of the organizations available to help families through rough times. We are honored to continue to strengthen our partnership with the Sheriff Department and community service providers focused on serving victims because together we can ensure that every survivor has a chance to reclaim their freedom, dignity, and a future. Thank you very much.
Hey, good morning. Chris Blackman, the Sheriff in Osceola County. First, I want to thank Sheriff Judd for hosting this press conference, CFO Blazin Golia, Attorney General James Huthmeyer, the State Attorney. This is a mission from all law enforcement to eradicate our areas of these scumbags over here on the wall. And it says fool around and find out again. I'm going to say again and again and again for some of them because they're slow learners. But with that said, I believe that's more of a wall of shame than anything when you look at those people. To know that the ones over here, the child predators, are trying to seek out our kids and do massive destruction to their soul. I believe we are moved by the Holy Spirit and the Lord to protect these kids, and that's my mission as Sheriff of Osceola County. We will do that in Osceola. A couple of our detectives are here that work these cases. They put in a lot of hours with the other agencies as well. And this is a mission from all of us up here, united across some state agencies, the sheriff's offices, and the prosecutorial services to protect the communities. So the crimes against the children are among some of the most serious and devastating offenses that a child can ever go through. By collaborating with other agencies, raising the awareness, we can better identify the offenders and protect the vulnerability of the communities. At the Osceola County Sheriff's Office is dedicated to expanding our role and our digital presence to make sure we find these monsters. What I'll say to a lot of the parents is this thing right here sometimes is your worst enemy, your cell phone. Why do I say that? You give this to your child, they add an application to their phone you think is harmless. Guess who's on the other end of it? There's a monster waiting to violate your child. I will say, it's been said before, protect your children. We can help you, but help us help you. Protect your children. Make sure you know what they're doing on their phones and their gaming systems. because some of these monsters will come through these phones and through these gaming systems into your house. And I'll say this to you, you would not normally invite them into your house, right? But when you hand your child this, and basically this becomes your nanny watch for your child, and this is your babysitter, the monsters are preying on your children. Make sure you know what your kids are doing. We grew up, parents were always involved with our child. Don't let this be your babysitter. Don't let the gaming system be your babysitter. Put checks and balances in place to protect your children. We're here for you. We're going to work our tails off with all state law enforcement and any law enforcement around the state of Florida. And as the governor said from the beginning, this is a law and order state. We're going to do that. We're going to serve and protect our communities with law and order. Thank you.
That was Osceola County Sheriff Christopher Blackman speaking at that news conference with Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, the Florida Attorney General, and the Florida CFO, as well as some other officials that we heard from just a little bit ago, talking about that large human trafficking bust resulting in more than 200 arrests. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We still have got a lot of other things to get to and to talk about, so keep it right here on Fox Local and on YouTube, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is National POW MIA Recognition Day, a day that is set aside to honor those prisoners of war and those who remain missing in action for however long they have been missing from their loved ones and their families and their friends. During our 11 o'clock hour, we had the chance to take you live inside a ceremony in Orlando as the Mayor's Veterans Advisory Council presented the symbolic missing man table and talked about the symbolism of each of those items at that table. The keynote speaker at that ceremony in Orlando was Jessica Lynch, who is a former prisoner of war herself. She was injured and captured back in 2003 after her unit was ambushed in Iraq, and she was in captivity for 9 days before U.S. Special Operations Forces were able to rescue her again 9 days later. She was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and the Prisoner of War medal as well. And she spoke today, gave her inspiring story of heroism, talked about what she went through and how it shaped her life, and her message on this National POW MIA Day. This is what she had to say just a little bit ago in Orlando.
A little bit. Hi, thank you guys so much. This is a true honor to be here with you. So it's kind of a crazy coincidence that this is the day, September 19th, that I left for basic training in 2001. So it has all this time, I guess, because obviously it falls every third Friday, so it's not always going to be the same date. But this time of the year is always very special to me because it's when I went in, but also with the recognition day. So like I said, I went into the military September 19th of 2001. And I had absolutely no plans of being in the military. I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. So from the time I was 5 years old, when anyone would ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up? I always said I want to be a kindergarten teacher, just like my very own kindergarten teacher, who was my role model and kind of inspiration. So fast forward until I graduated in May of 2001. I had everything set to go into elementary education. That was until that summer of 2001 when a Army recruiter showed up to our family home. And I guess it's kind of important to note that I have a brother who is a year older than I am, and a sister who is a year and a half younger. So as we are sitting at our family home, and again, I'm out in West Virginia, the middle of nowhere. So when this Army recruiter showed up and our parents were at work, and instantly we look at my brother, who is kind of the troublemaker in our family, and we're like, ooh, Mom said don't have anybody over, and we see this car driving out, and then it turns out to be an Army recruiter, and instantly my sister says, oh, that was me. Wait, you're not even graduated yet, and you have an Army recruiter here talking to me and my brother. So we thought about the whole spiel that the Army recruiters give you about travel opportunities, the educational benefits, obviously joining and being in, and everything sounded absolutely amazing to us. And again, my brother was born in 82, I was born in 83, and my sister was 84. So the more we thought about this, we were like, okay, this is a way that we can kind of take off that financial burden of, you know, my parents putting all three of us into college at the same time. So before we knew it, my brother and I decided that we were going into the military. So I went on the delayed entry program. Like I said, that was the summer of 2001. We were still in peacetime. Nothing had happened. My brother left August of 2001, and then I left the week after 9/11 had occurred. So I was already nervous and scared, and the whole jitterbugs like everybody else, not sure of what's happening in the world. But I get into basic training and everything is fine. Move on to my AIT, the Advanced Individual Training, which was down in Fort Lee, Virginia, where I became a supply clerk. Move on to my active duty station, which was out in Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. And I got out there in February of 2002. And I actually enjoyed the military life. Like, I did not think that it was going to be for me, but I absolutely started loving it. Your comrades and friends that you make in those bonds. And I thought, okay, I can do this. So initially, again, I only signed up for 2 years because I wanted those educational benefits. So by October of 2002, I was able to re-enlist because I had already had my 1 year in. And I looked at them and I said, okay, I will re-enlist if and only if I can go to Hawaii. And they did their little magic and they were like, cool, we have a position open in Hawaii if you want to take it. Again, I'm 19 years old and I'm thinking, absolutely 100%, sign me up. So he did his orders and everything, again, was going fine. I was excited because I was getting ready to go to Hawaii. And then I'm told, oh, not yet. You're about to be deployed. So now we are up to February of 2003. So 1 year of actually being in my active duty unit at Fort Bliss, and my unit gathers everything up and we ship off to Kuwait. We are stationed there for about a month, and we get word March 20th of 2003 that we are going across the berm, the border, to Iraq with the rest of the convoy. And our mission was just to follow in line and follow the entire long convoy. And I mean, this was a massive convoy. And once we got to Baghdad, then that's kind of where everyone will split off and go their separate directions. Sounded easy enough. And away we went. The first day of being in Iraq was smooth sailing. Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, we were always on guard because we didn't know what was kind of happening around us. By the second day of being in Iraq, my unit starts to lag and fall behind this larger convoy. So my first sergeant and my commander, who at this time are both acting commander and first sergeant, so my original ones got removed, and we are given acting first sergeant commander. So the acting commander and first sergeant make the decision that he's going to split us up and keep 31 of us in 16 vehicles behind to help those slower vehicles, kind of pull them out of sand pits, breaking down, whatever it happens to be, that the 31 of us would stay together, and everybody else was going to continue on and try to keep up with the rest of the larger convoy. As they drive away and the 31 of us are left behind, so at this point now, out of all vehicles, mine, my transfer case ends up busting out of my 5-ton, and it is now being pulled by another vehicle. So now there's 33 of us in technically 16 vehicles, but 17 vehicles in total. And as we are traveling along, we realize that we are left behind. And no matter what direction we looked, we couldn't see the rest of that convoy. They were completely gone. When the reports came out, we were 19 hours behind the rest of that convoy. So if you can imagine that. So that means as we are left behind, we are given paper maps, GPSs, and handheld radio devices. Unfortunately, our GPSs and our radios would not work because our bases were 19 hours ahead of us. So there we are, literally lost in the desert, can't figure out where we are. And if you were over there, you know the paper maps that I'm talking about. Literally, it's just kind of a highlighted route that you were supposed to take. That did us absolutely no good because everywhere we looked was just sand. There was no roads, there were no buildings, there were no outlining details of anything to point us in the right direction. So that's how we ended up 19 hours kind of in the opposite direction. By the morning of March 23rd, so this is our third day of being in Iraq, and we look ahead of us and we see bright shining lights. And in our minds, we are thinking that's the rest of the convoy, that's the larger element that we are supposed to be with, and we travel toward that. As we got closer, we noticed that it was not the rest of the convoy, but it was the city of Nazareth. So we are now finally to hardtop, though. Like, we have made it, so we're looking at our map, and my commander and first sergeant read the map incorrectly. We are supposed to take, I think it was a right, we ended up taking a left, and we ended up inside of the actual city of Nazareth. And Nazareth is one of those cities that we were told don't go in, that it hadn't been covered, it wasn't secured. But unfortunately, once we crossed the Euphrates River Bridge and ended up into that town, again, my superiors made the decision that we are going to kind of continue on and get to a spot where we can turn our vehicles around and make our way back out of the city. Unfortunately, before we could do that, we noticed that these Iraqis were coming outside of their homes. Some of them were standing in plain view. Some of them were on top of rooftops. Some of them were standing behind vehicles. I mean, basically anywhere that they could get an aim at us. And again, this is an entire town against the 33 of us. So we are completely outnumbered. And before we know it, that first dreaded gunshot occurred. And it was followed by a full-fledged ambush attack on us from every direction. And our vehicles were just being blown up in front of us. At this moment, I am in kind of the rear of the smaller convoy, and I'm in a 4-seater Humvee with 5 of us in it. We ended up picking up 2 other soldiers inside of the vehicle to get them out of harm's way. So at the time, I was the tiniest, so I jumped up on top of kind of the transmission hump just to make way for everybody to get inside. And as we are traveling and being fired upon, we are struck by an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, and it hit the right side of that Humvee. My best friend was driving, Lori Payestoa, and my first sergeant was in the passenger seat, and then, like I said, 2 other men sitting beside me. And as we lost control of that vehicle. We ended up slamming into the back of a disabled 18-wheeler, the tractor and trailer, to the back of it. Unfortunately, Lori hit her head off of the steering wheel, sustained head injuries, and later eventually passed. The 3 men that were inside of the vehicle were all shot and killed. For me, I was knocked unconscious at some point. Again, those details are rocky because, I was the only survivor in the vehicle, so we don't have exact estimates of when that occurred. So I'm knocked unconscious. The Iraqis, as the firefight comes to an end, they come around to all of our vehicles and determine who is KIA and who is still alive. They noticed that I was still alive, still breathing, but unconscious. And so they removed all of our fallen and took them to what was known as the soccer field, which was near the hospital that I was later rescued at. So they placed them in very shallow graves outside of that hospital. And for me, and actually Lori, they ended up taking Lori, even though that she had was basically gone at that point. But they took Lori and I to one of Saddam's palaces that was nearby. For me, they drug me across the pavement and put us inside of that palace, and that is where they proceeded to break our bones. I don't have the full report on Lori because I refuse to read it. I don't want to know exactly what happened to her, but I do have it. I just refuse to actually read it. But for me, I had a head laceration. I'm not sure exactly how that one happened, but my back was broken at the 4th and 5th lumbar. My arm was snapped, so they actually took my right humerus and snapped it. My left femur was broken. My left tibia was smashed by a metal pipe object that they had laying there in the palace. And then my right foot was completely crushed and kind of turned to the side. Obviously, being a female, I will just leave it at that. And then they ended up taking me to Saddam General there in Nasiriyah. And I remember actually coming to and waking up at that point, and the doctors are estimating it to have been about 2 to 3 hours after the ambush that I finally came to. And I opened my eyes and I'm laying on this bed, and I look up and I see these Iraqi men, and they're just staring down at me. So I try to jump and jerk to get away from them. And at that moment is when I realized that I could not move anything from my waist down. They had one of those heavy wool kind of blankets over me. So I wasn't able to kind of pick it up and check, see what was happening. But I remember asking them questions of, where are my comrades? Why am I here? Where am I? Just anything to kind of get any kind of answers from them. And obviously the translation barrier between us did not happen. So they weren't able to communicate with me. Not that I would have gotten answers from them anyway, but I guess when you're scared and you open your eyes and you see these Iraqi men stand there, you do what you have to do to try to get answers. And I remember them moving me about the hospital quite a bit, until one day they took me down to the operating room and they transferred me over onto the operating room table, and I looked up and I saw the bright shining light that was already on. And the Iraqi guys that were with me, they brought in one who could speak what I called broken English, so I could understand bits and pieces of what he was saying and vice versa. But he told me that I needed to put the oxygen mask over my face and count. And I remember kind of looking down and thinking, I'm not even prepped for surgery. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what they're about to operate on. They wouldn't tell me anything. So I looked at them and I just started begging and pleading and crying for them to please stop. Just whatever it was that they're about to do to me, just please, please stop. And the guy that could speak the broken English, he said, "We have to amputate your leg." And of course, again, I'm 19 years old. I'm in a foreign country. I don't know what is even happening or what's going on. So I cried and begged with them to please stop. And for whatever reason, they did. And they put me back over on like my little gurney and moved me back upstairs. And, you know, some days I would be in, you know, just a regular hospital room. Other days I would be out in the middle of like the hallway. But I never knew exactly kind of where I was or where I was going. And then one day they told me that they were going to put me in an ambulance and take me to an American checkpoint to hand me back over to the Americans. Unfortunately, we never made it to an American checkpoint, but instead they took me to the outskirts of town inside of this building, and they left me. And I remember thinking at that point, okay, Jess, you got to be strong. You've got to be able to do this. You've got to hang on. And I thought, okay, I really basically only have two options here. I can scream and make as much noise as I possibly can in hopes that there would be some kind of American force on that outside of the building that may hear me. Or I could lay there in silence and fear that if I made any kind of noise, that I would then be in the hands of like the Fedayeen or the militiamen, and those were the hands that I did not want in. So I decided to just lay there in silence and hope and pray that those either good Iraqis would come back and get me, or by chance the Americans may just walk by that building. Unfortunately, it was well, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, I was picked back up by those good Iraqis and taken back to the hospital, where again, they moved me around quite a bit. And then on the night of April 1st, I could hear our tanks rolling through. I could hear our helicopters. I could hear bombs kind of exploding in the distance, kind of those diversion tactics. I could hear gunshots and Humvees literally right outside of my window. And in my head, I'm thinking, they don't know that I'm in here, and they are about to bomb, take over. I'm like, I hope that is not my phone, because that would be embarrassing. It has happened before, by the way. But I remember hearing all of those noise and thinking, they don't know that I'm in here. Like, I'm a 19-year-old nobody from West Virginia. There's no way that they're going to know that I'm even missing. And the next thing that I noticed and heard was American voices, English, and them saying, "Where's Private Lynch?" And At this point, I'm locked in a room with those two Iraqi men. One was standing by the window, and just by his mannerisms, like I knew something was about to happen. He was just antsy, fidgety, just didn't seem like his normal self, I guess, in the past. So I knew something was about to occur. The other one was standing by the door and kept it locked. And the next thing I know, chaos just broke out, and those two men were let out, and standing beside me was a PJ, so Air Force, thank you. So there was a pararescue jumper, a PJ, and he ripped the American flag off of his uniform, and he placed it in my left hand and said, "We're Americans. We're here to take you home." And of course, as he was talking to me, and things got really crazy at that point, because then, you know, everybody started coming in and securing the doorways and the stairs, and they whisked me out of there to an awaiting helicopter, got me over to Kuwait, so kind of a safe haven, get me out of the Iraq. And I remember them handing me an American flag, like not even just the little one off of his uniform, which I still have to this day, but an actual large one, and they placed it on my chest. And for the first time, he looked at me and he said, "Welcome home." And away we went. We made it to Germany, and then I spent about 2 weeks in Germany waiting for, I guess, the surgeries. So along with kind of what I was talking about before, but they went in and placed a rod in the humerus bone, a cage in the 4th and 5th lumbar, my left femur that was broken. So when I was first taken to the Iraqi hospital, the Iraqis removed my femur bone, and they replaced it with a 1940s era rod, which I still have today. So that's how I know that it's dated at the time. And again, everything was recorded, but they put a 1940s era rod that was too long for my body, and it was unsterilized. So I instantly, as you can imagine, caught an infection, which is why the Iraqis wanted to amputate. But again, for whatever reason, they saved my leg. The Americans, but in Germany, they were able to go in and take that infected rod out and replace it with a clean, sterilized rod. And then a rod also in my tibia, and then my right foot. So when the Iraqis pulled me out of the Humvee, since I was not in a seat and didn't have anything in front of me to protect me, I guess when I went unconscious, my body kind of went forward, my foot got lodged underneath of the passenger seat. So when the Iraqis pulled me out, they actually ended up snapping it to the side. So I've had, I think, 8 surgeries just alone on the right foot to kind of correct it. And then I was not given any food or water during my captivity. So when I was rescued as a almost 20-year-old, I was 3 weeks shy of turning 20. I weighed 76 pounds. And so a lot of my time spent in Germany, as well as Walter Reed, was emotional, mental, physical. trying to get me to eat, just bringing me back to, I guess, life. And from that moment on is when I decided that, you know what, it's going to be kind of my motto, my mission to persevere. No matter what I'm faced in life, that I was always going to stay resilient and persevere with everything that I had, because I didn't survive everything that I went through as a POW to come home and to not do anything. So that is why when Steve was kind of reading my bio, I have gone around and I did go back to school and get my elementary education degree. Thank you. Yes. And then I went on for my master's, and one day I'll eventually make it to get to my doctorate. But my daughter, who now is 18 and in college herself, and she, when she was probably about 13, you know, we kind of did the same thing with her. What do you want to be when you grow up? And she looked at us and said that she wanted to be a physical therapist because she wants to help people like my therapist were able to help me. And she is an absolutely remarkable child. I have to brag on her for that. But anyway, so one day I will get back to school, but I could get her through schooling first. But I absolutely enjoy going around and just talking about the message of perseverance, because we are all going through something in our life, whether it's you personally, a family member, a friend, it doesn't matter, whoever, whether it's financial, whether it's educational, relationships, it doesn't matter. We are all going through something in life, and it's not always easy, and sometimes we need that person beside us to say, you can do this, that you are strong, and you're going to overcome whatever you are facing right now. So that is my message to you guys today. So don't give up. Yes, it is hard for whatever you are going through, and I hope that you come out of it. And just remember that it's the mindset. Keep a positive outlook on life, and yeah, persevere through everything. And kind of going back to POW MIA Day, it's like he was saying, we have so many that are still unaccounted for, and whether we get them home or not, it's about remembering them, keeping their legacy alive, being there for their families, and just hope and pray that one day we do get them all home. And until then, you're not forgotten. So thank you guys so much for having me here today. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Former prisoner of war Jessica Lynch speaking at the National POW MIA Recognition Day ceremony earlier today in the city of Orlando. That held at the Dr. Phillips Center downtown, and certainly a somber ceremony as well, but inspiring to hear her share her story and her recommendation, her advice, just not to give up. So certainly we do keep in mind all of those families who are still waiting on their loved ones to return home, who remain missing in action on this day that is set aside to remember and
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Continuing to track a number of things at this 1 o'clock hour, and we appreciate you joining us here as we wrap up our work week. And it has been a busy week, and we appreciate you joining us here on Fox Local. We are continuing to track today and learn more about the guest at Epic Universe who passed away after riding Stardust Racers and being found unresponsive on that ride. Let me give you a live look right now where there is the Stardust Racers remaining idle again today, shut down for a second straight day so far after that incident happened on Wednesday. Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie has the latest on what we know about that situation. Now that we know from the medical examiner that victim's cause of death had been ruled as multiple blunt force injuries, an accidental death resulting from multiple blunt force injuries. That's what they say about 32-year-old Kevin Zavala. And Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie has more, including what we know from a witness who was getting ready to get on the ride when that roller coaster arrived back at the station.
We heard from Kevin Zavala's family, and they tell us that he and his girlfriend were at the Epic Universe theme park Wednesday night for a fun night out, but it sadly ended in tragedy. According to the medical examiner's report, it says he died from multiple blunt impact injuries. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. That ride was closed all day yesterday, and this is what it shows when you look at the ride on the Universal app. Tommy Italiano was second in line, about to board the roller coaster. Listen to what he had to say about what happened.
The most concerning part, and I actually ended up helping a few people, there was parents that had their kids stuck on the ride. They were in hysterics, crying.
Italiano says he saw the unresponsive man still strapped in the seat, and people were panicking because no one had their phones. Riders are required to check their belongings into a locker before riding. In a statement, a Universal spokesperson calls the incident tragic, also saying, quote, "We are devastated by this event and extend our sincerest sympathies to the guests' loved ones." According to the Universal app, the Stardust Racers ride is also going to be shut down today. We are still working to find out more information on what happened. Reporting in Orlando, Amanda McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Yeah, that ride continues to be closed and could be closed for a while. We spoke in our 11 a.m. hour with Kim Wald, who is an attorney, a personal injury trial attorney. She represented the family of Tyre Sampson, the 14-year-old who died after falling from the Orlando FreeFall ride at Orlando's Icon Park back in 2022. She talked about the investigative process, what they are looking for, kind of what is happening now, and we talked about accountability, some of the standards that theme park and ride operators are held to, and also some other questions when it comes to liability and health conditions, a number of topics. We talked with her about that at 11 o'clock. We're going to have more on that again for you in our next hour at 2 o'clock when our TV audience joins in as well. The circumstances, though, surrounding the death of this man still remain unclear. Right now, we don't know what happened leading up to Kevin Zavala's death. We don't know what his personal medical history might be or anything like that. But doctors are saying this is certainly a good time to caution people going to theme parks, going to amusement parks, wherever it may be, just in general, to consider your health before you get on a ride. Dr. Gayatri Patel with Advent Health was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about just that. And here's that conversation from a little bit ago.
So happy to speak on this topic and educate your viewers and raise awareness on this subject and the health implications of riding a roller coaster.
Now, Dr. Patel, we know that when people go to the theme park, they're excited. They're maybe not even thinking about the worst case scenario. So you see those signs, those warning signs posted before you get on the ride. How seriously should you be taking those signs?
So we should be taking those signs very seriously. And to be honest, we're all a little guilty, including myself, in the excitement of getting onto a ride. Sometimes, we might overlook those signs and, just kind of go with the flow. But those warning signs are there to help identify certain health risks, health hazards, like, sudden intense motion, for example, flashing lights, twisting and bending, sudden accelerations, things like that. And you have to pay attention, especially if you have any underlying medical condition, because if it's not recommended for patients with certain underlying heart diseases, blood pressure issues, expectant mothers, things like that, then it's best to avoid it.
Let's talk a little bit about what happens to our bodies when we even ride a roller coaster. How do those G-forces affect the brain, heart, and the circulation?
Right. So, when we are riding roller coasters and those sudden, unpredictable motions, the high speed with the G-forces, those sudden accelerations, decelerations, they can cause this effect of heaviness and weightlessness on your body. It can cause like the blood to go away from your brain sometimes, and that can cause you to have like blackouts, for example, and it can make you like, in certain instances for people to even pass out. So, certainly those are there, especially people who have underlying heart diseases. This can cause them to increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure. If they have any underlying issues, then it might trigger a life-threatening arrhythmia, for example. If they have any underlying history of seizure disorders and things like that, that can become very pronounced or certainly, get exacerbated or come onto the forefront with those flashing lights, fog effects, flickering of certain motions and things like that.
There's a lot to consider, and I want to mention that when it comes to this specific incident, we don't have all the details, but we do have the medical examiner's report. It came in saying this guest in particular had multiple blunt impact injuries. I just want to ask, generally speaking, what does multiple blunt impact injuries usually mean, medically speaking?
Multiple blunt injuries would mean and it's hard to say whether this person had a seatbelt on, whether they were, following all these instructions, versus if that was all in place and then there was still that sudden impact, whether it was to the chest, whether it was to their head, but that blunt injury sheer force, whether it caused a concussion or it caused trauma to your chest. Blunt injuries might, on the outside, might not be as visible in terms of the trauma that it's causing, but internally can sometimes be affecting your organs.
There's still a lot of questions about that. We know the investigation is ongoing, and we'll bring you updates as we get them. And again, like I said, we will talk more about this topic in our next hour, 2 o'clock here on Fox Local. Do want to let you know of something else that we are tracking today. We continue to follow updates on the story of this Edgewater police officer, David Jewell, the off-duty officer who was killed in what the sheriff of Volusia County calls a targeted assassination and attack that happened earlier this week at a convenience store. There is supposed to be a large vigil tonight for him in Edgewater. We've got a story right now on fox35orlando.com. It gives you all the information about that if you're interested in attending, to show your support. If you're interested in watching that on a live stream, you can do that as well. We've got all of those details right now in this web story on fox35orlando.com. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A lawsuit filed this week in connection with the Paddock Mall shooting that happened in just a few days before Christmas a few years ago. A negligent security wrongful death lawsuit against the accused shooter, the mall's former owners, and the company responsible for security. You're going to hear some of the claims that they made in this lawsuit. Fox 35's Randy Hildreth had the chance to speak with one of the attorneys representing this family that's filing this, including David Barron's daughter. She was just 19 years old when her father was killed. She also spoke with Randy about this process and what happens next.
It's just a lot of struggle really onto having to heal about this, because it is a lot. This isn't just a day-to-day kind of death. This is something big, and I feel like when it happened, it hurt me a lot. And throughout the whole year and this year, I just been struggling with, going to work and keeping my mental capacity at least stable. And it's just hard.
What do you remember about that day? What do you remember? Talk about finding out. Walk me back to that day.
So really, I was at work. It was just a regular day. I was going to work trying to get some more money before Christmas comes. And I want to say it was a very easy day at work. And I felt like the day was moving a little too easy. It was like something's not right. And I want to say it was like in the middle of my shift, and I'm not supposed to be on my phone at work. So I was just getting a bunch of notifications talking about, are you okay? And I'm like, what's going on? And then I found out, but it took me a while to find out, my family kind of hid it from me. And they were on the way to pick me up because I can't drive when I'm upset like that. And yeah, I was just praying the whole ride there, just praying to God, just praying really.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 21. I just turned 21 in July.
Gotcha. Okay. And then
I was only 19.
Was it a difficult decision for your family to, move forward in filing this lawsuit? Or was it kind of, considering what we have learned and how we have processed this, it was not a difficult decision for us to try to get some justice for your dad?
No, not at all. It was actually everybody on the same page. If anything, I was probably the first person to say something about it. Following on to that night, I was sitting there and I was thinking, maybe we can't. This ain't right. No one should go through this. I feel like we can definitely do something about this. And seconds later, Pedro called.
And then 2 more questions for you. And it's to kind of piggyback on what you were saying. When you took a step back and did an assessment of the situation, what were some of the questions that were going through your mind about how something like this could have happened or why something like this happened?
It was, my thinking process when all of that happened, I didn't really much care onto why it happened. It was just more or less like my dad is gone and I'm dealing with this. I don't want to say alone because I had family and friends and stuff, but I really did feel alone. I felt like I was the only 19-year-old who just lost her dad in this kind of situation. Everyone else have their dad. I can't talk to this person. I can't talk to that person because they won't understand me because they still have their dad. So it was just really like internal battles I was having with myself that I had to keep internally because nobody could really understand what I was going through.
And you were real close to your dad.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. What do you hope this changes? Or how do you hope this honors your dad's legacy?
I just hope everybody remembers my dad for everything that he did. Like he was more than a tattoo artist. He was more than a father. He was more than just somebody who stayed in Ocala. My dad had the whole Florida state printed on his back. He was a Florida boy. He would never hurt nobody or do anything like that. And I didn't really have questions. It was just more or less like, I just wanted to heal from it because I know he needs justice. He needs justice because no one should be put through this.
And
It's
then
a lot.
the last part of that question, what are you hoping that this changes? I know it's difficult sometimes when you lose someone and your person becomes the pathway to change to help other people.
Right.
But what are you hoping that this changes?
I hope it changes practically the whole Florida, maybe the whole United States, because nobody should ever go through anything like this, losing their dad. No one should ever get shot. No one should ever even go through this kind of pain that's put upon humans. No one should be doing this, you know? And I'm just hoping that it's a change. I'm just hoping that it's justice served, and I'm hoping that everybody understands the pain that my family has been going through because this ain't nothing easy. This ain't just a walk down the park.
So through our investigation, and our initial investigation before we filed this lawsuit, we learned that not only were there security failures on the day that David Barron was shot and killed at Paddock Mall, but there had been a long history of crime there. And instead of increasing security, the people that owned and operated that mall were decreasing security. And they were decreasing the amount of security they had, despite pleas and begging from the people that worked there to increase security because they felt unsafe. And this was going on for years before David was shot and killed. And then we know that this happened on December 23rd, one of the busiest shopping days of the year. And they had no visible security inside that mall. I mean, the security failures in this case are absolutely egregious.
And then explain what you all are seeking. I know it's a negligent lawsuit, or filing a lawsuit about negligence against multiple entities, but what are you hoping is the outcome for your clients? And then next steps now that you guys have officially filed a lawsuit?
So first and foremost, having spoken to my clients for the last several months since they retain me, I mean, first and foremost, what we want is to make sure that this never happens again. Businesses and people that own and operate businesses, whether it's shopping malls, apartment complexes, nightclubs, they have to understand that you need to take security seriously. And when you have a problem, you have to address it because if not, something like this is going to happen. And we cannot stand for the tragic loss of life when it could have been prevented. And in this case, it absolutely could have been prevented. So the family's most important goal, and their primary motivation behind filing this lawsuit is to send a message to those that run businesses, those that run shopping centers, that you have to do more.
And then next steps with the lawsuit, has a next court date hearing been set?
No, so we filed the complaint and then we're going to get underway with discovery. So we're going to be seeking answers as to why these decisions were made. Because we've been in contact with not only former employees of the mall, but people that worked in the mall at various of the tenants' different stores. And we've been contacted by several people telling us how bad the problem was, how they begged and pleaded for additional security, and how they were ignored. So we're going to start deposing those individuals, getting the documents, and getting this family answers as to why this happened.
And then last thing, 214, last question. Monetary compensation for the family, that aspect of the lawsuit.
So ultimately, I mean, in our civil justice system, that's the way you unfortunately have to send a message, right? I mean, we can't bring David back. I can't necessarily directly force them all to do anything different, but by obviously inflicting, by bringing this lawsuit and having them pay monetary damage, ultimately they will change their behavior. As to amounts and everything like that, it's too early to discuss that, but I can tell you ultimately my clients want justice for this loss, but there's no way to possibly compensate these children for this, for losing their father. There's just no amount of money that will ever compensate them.
That was the attorney representing the victim's family. We do also have this statement reached out to the current owners of the Paddock Mall. They told us in this statement that we review our security protocols on an ongoing basis, adjusting as necessary. While we don't publicly disclose details, we are committed to maintaining a comfortable and welcoming space for our tenants and our shoppers. So here's where things stand with that. We know the lawsuit has been filed. Next up is the discovery phase as they look for essentially evidence when it comes to this case, and we will see where things go with this suit. So we will continue to bring you updates here on Fox Local. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look right now at downtown Orlando on this Friday afternoon. We know earlier today there was a group protesting outside Orlando City Hall this morning. They were, quote, standing up for their right to free speech, which is something that has been in the news this week. A lot of talk about that. We have heard about that from a couple of other aspects as well that we've brought you here on Fox Local, including this morning a group of riders in New York City protesting the removal of Jimmy Kimmel and his show from the air, a number of other things throughout the week as well. And these protesters in Orlando today were taking specific exception to a couple of things. One of them, Jimmy Kimmel, but they also were concerned about what happened with the Pulse Rainbow Crosswalk and that ongoing battle essentially for about a week or two after the state decided to paint over the Rainbow Crosswalk. There were some arrests as folks tried to color it with chalk and restore some of that color to it. So this protest was, they say they were defending the right to free speech, specifically singling out Governor Ron DeSantis and President Donald Trump as well. Here is what one of those protesters told us outside City Hall this morning.
I am with the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. We are a global AIDS service organization. We do have offices here in Orlando as well as Florida and St. Petersburg and other sites. So we're here today to really stand up for our right to free speech. We know that it is timely because of Governor DeSantis' order to paint over the Pulse nightclub crosswalk. We know that free speech is a really hot button topic right now because of late night comics getting censored and pulled off the air, CDC directors ringing alarm bells regarding public health and being silenced and fired. So it's really important to us that we come out and make a stand and use our voices for a good cause. Everyone deserves this. This First Amendment is applicable to everyone, and that includes all of us.
And you think if you don't do this now, it will be late?
If not now, when? If not now, when? It should have been yesterday, but we're here today. And we'll continue showing up. We have a broad history of social justice activations, and so we will continue to fight for those who need it most.
The state has taken it within their own right to remove our crosswalks, remove our art, remove our freedom of expression within that, and we're standing out to let them know that that's not acceptable and that we won't stand for it.
And you would say, how important it is to do it now?
It's more important than ever to do it right now because with the attacks happening, they're not just happening in Florida, they're happening across the country, they're happening to different states, they're happening to celebrities. It's becoming an escalation of force in how far they'll go on coming for our freedom of speech. And if we don't act now, it may be too late to act.
And so I saw some signs saying like, thank you, City of Orlando officials.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Orlando is a blue bubble surrounded by a sea of red. And Orlando stands strong always in defending our freedoms and ensuring that they're doing everything they can to ensure that our freedom of speech and our other rights are not infringed upon. So thank you, Orlando, and thank you, Buddy Dyer, for constantly taking that stance.
Give you another live look at downtown Orlando right now. The city recently named the #1 city for Hispanic entrepreneurs. We had the chance yesterday to speak with Pedro Turashina. He is the president and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Metro Orlando. Talked with him about the work of the Hispanic Chamber to help businesses and business owners here, and also talked with him about celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month in Central Florida and the importance of that. Here's what he had to say.
I'm very proud and excited that our city, Beautiful, has been recognized as the #1 city for Hispanic entrepreneurs. This recognition shows that Central Florida has created the right environment, provided the right resources, and supports small businesses to thrive. Now, it is important to highlight one thing. 1 out of every 4 small businesses here in Central Florida identifies as Hispanic owned, which is huge for us. That fact alone speaks volumes about the progress and how resilient and successful our Hispanic business community is. Our mission continues to be strong and is to strengthen the Hispanic business in Central Florida. We currently represent more than 2,600 active members, from entrepreneurs to professionals, corporate partners. Every day, we work to provide opportunities for them to connect, to learn, and to succeed. With the support of 57 corporate partners that you see here in the back wall, those are the investors that help us to continue to grow our chamber. And I'm proud to report that we're in the top 2 chambers in the region and amongst the top 10 Hispanic chambers in the nation. And at the end of the day, when our businesses succeed, our entire community prospers. As a past business owner myself, I know what it takes to open up a business. And it's more than just opening it up with a great idea. You need a plan, you need a strong support system, and you need strong connections. My advice is to don't be afraid to ask for help. Look for mentors. Surround yourself with organizations that can guide you through the process. Join the Hispanic Chamber is my first advice, but also visit us here at the National Entrepreneur Center, where we provide the tools, the resources, and the partnerships to help your business grow and start to scale.
We spoke with Edwin, the owner of Mecato's Bakery and longtime member of the Chamber. What do you think about his success growing his business in Central Florida?
Edwin's story is truly the representation of how strong we are here in this community. It's a success story for the Hispanic Chamber and how much he has contributed to the ecosystem in Central Florida. His success is built on perseverance and the ability to take advantage of the connections, the visibility, and the resources we offer here at the Hispanic Chamber and other organizations like our sister organization Prospera and the National Entrepreneur Center. Today, Mecato's is more than just a brand. It's a bakery that is also grown tremendously in a region. His product speaks for itself. It's delicious, outstanding quality, but also a really good family-oriented business.
Right now, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. What would you like people to know about the culture as it relates to business?
The Hispanic Heritage Month is about honoring our roots, celebrating the leaders who paved the way for all of us, the legacy, right, from those trailblazers that made a difference in our community. So recognizing that the impact of our business community continues to have the prosperity of our region. The culture is rooted in family, in hard work, and collaboration, and those values fuel the entrepreneurial spirit that continues to drive so many Hispanic business owners. That is why this month is not only a celebration of our heritage, it's also a celebration of economic contributions. And while we highlight it between September and October, the truth is it's something that we need to celebrate all year long.
We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Getting a lot of attention today is a tense exchange on Capitol Hill yesterday in a committee hearing about crime in Washington, D.C. Let me give you a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol. At the center of that tense exchange was Congressman Byron Donalds, a Republican from Florida, and obviously candidate for governor as well. And this was an exchange that he had with Representative Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat from Michigan. And again, this happened during a hearing where they were talking about Congress's authority over Washington, D.C., obviously in the aftermath of the president deploying the National Guard to crack down on crime there. Here is a little bit of what happened inside that committee hearing yesterday. Take a listen.
I think it's really important. I mean, we're talking about, 700,000 people that live here, and I feel like their voice gets completely just dismissed. And so, if I may, Mr. Chair, ask unanimous consent to enter the record. The Washington Post poll of D.C. residents found 8 out of 8 in 10 opposed Trump's taking over of their local police and sending in federal troops.
Without objection to ordered.
I think it's also really important to understand, like, the incredible kind of slanderous, like, defamation. I don't know what to call it. They're just burying Washington, D.C. You just heard them speak about our nation's capital in that way, in a way that I feel very much like that's not what I see. I see people walking around with their families, people enjoying time to see these beautiful, incredible, beautiful monuments and everything. And there's a pride here too. And so I just want to bring the DC residents into this committee because I feel like they are being made invisible. And this really ugly picture that is not reflective. And I'm from Detroit. I've seen it happen to my city, and it's despicable in a way that I feel like really goes up against our values. One of the things that I know in every abuse of power that we let President Trump and the administration get away with in D.C., it will be replicated. It will be expanded across the country, and it is going to tear apart our communities. Mr. Jackson, I talked to you about a little bit about this, but I think it's important to understand that we do have a mental health crisis, that we have a housing crisis, affordability crisis. Can you police any of those away? I mean, no wonder there's violence increasing towards homeless neighbors. I see it already, the brutality of it. When we see housing costs go up, when we see, again, the lack or dismissiveness of the mental health crisis that we continue to grow. And it's not just this administration, and the previous administrations as well. No one has moved with the urgency that is needed. Just last week, the committee approved over a dozen bills regarding Washington, D.C. And, I'm just curious. I mean, criminalized children. My colleague from Boston talked about this. It basically interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
One of the things that, AG, I've been listening to you. One of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? I mean, completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected attorney general.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an attorney general is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions in slumlords, seniors and consumers who are being scammed, addressing the issues that are most important to D.C. residents, because I am accountable to them.
I read wage theft is an issue, workplace discrimination. I mean, there's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not going to address that. They want to paint you all as this ugly, dark, all just out in the street. I mean, the way, it's just unbelievable because they all live here. I don't see it. I don't see what they see. I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen, because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, you know, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, I mean, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house, don't move, don't go anywhere, stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric in regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in DC, home rule was one out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights. We can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say like so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in DC and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair,
nice.
but you all live here, and you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues. We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Talib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
Talib. All right, time. Chair recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado. Wait a minute, Ms. Boebert.
That was during that hearing yesterday. I want to take you now, jump forward about 15 minutes when Congressman Donalds was called on to speak, and here is what he had to say after that.
A very interesting hearing for a myriad of reasons. Mayor Bowser, thanks for being here with us. I do appreciate you taking the time today. It was said earlier that in 1973, Congress did pass the D.C. Home Rule Act. It is known on Capitol Hill, is known quite frankly through our entire constitutional republic, that any Congress cannot bind a future Congress. Just like at the state level, a legislature cannot bind a future legislature. That something that is enacted can be modified or undone in the future. I was able to have a conversation with a lot of the people from the Free DC organization. Some of them might still be in the room today. And that was the constant point that we came back to. That yes, under the law passed in 1973, your position was created, the DC City Council's position was created, but the ultimate authority for the federal district is still the United States Congress, and with the signature of the President of the United States. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. I would agree, and I would also add it's within the power of this Congress to advance the D.C. statehood bill. By simple majority, this Congress can, like it has done for every state in the union outside of the first 13, admit D.C. as a state.
I'm glad you actually brought that up, because one of the reasons why I opposed the D.C. statehood bill is because the Constitution and the framers were actually quite clear that they did not want the federal district per se to be leveraged by a state or any state. And I think I had conversations with several residents of D.C. who were walking through the halls of Capitol Hill when then Speaker Pelosi was bringing that up. And I asked them two very important questions. If you want to have representation, why don't we allow that property to be re-annexed by the state of Maryland, which actually provided the land for the federal district to be created? Or would the citizens of the District of Columbia prefer not to be subject to federal income taxes as a result of them not having, quote unquote, representation. What's your thought on that?
I do think it's time to talk about what the district pays and what we get back. I do think it's time to have that conversation.
And that's a fair conversation to have. I got a couple questions for you. Let's get to the business of the matter. Since President Trump authorized the National Guard to be in D.C., how much has crime decreased in the District of Columbia?
I think it's important, and I've noticed that this has happened throughout this conversation, that you talk about the National Guard and you don't talk about federal law enforcement. And the federal surge consisted of federal law enforcement, which MPD works with all the time. I'm talking about the FBI, the DEA.
Mayor Bowser, I'm really not trying to disrespect you, but how much has crime decreased?
Oh, I mentioned already and let me look at my numbers, that the federal surge produced a 39% decrease in violent crime.
39% decrease in violent crime
that's on
in
top,
the nation's capital.
Let me just add, that's on top of the 26% decrease that we were already experiencing.
So it seems that the president's surge was more effective than your own efforts. Wouldn't you say?
It
Last time I checked, 39% is way higher than 26%. But let me move on.
But the full statistic is a little different.
Chairman Mendelson, I didn't ask you a question.
I know,
Relax,
but the full statistic is a little different.
Actually, Chairman, let me ask you this question, because you butted in. Now let me ask you.
Sure.
What is the current status of the Metropolitan Police Department in terms of staffing? How many officers do you have on the beat?
I believe it's less than 3,100.
Okay. Is the MPD fully staffed?
In my view, no.
Question. Hold that point. Here's the question. So is a surge of federal law enforcement into the federal enclave, which the mayor has acknowledged is the primary responsibility of the federal government, isn't it simple logic to say that the president's surge has been helpful to safety and security in the District of Columbia, Chairman?
The additional law enforcement resources has been good. We work with those different agencies all the time. There was more of it, more of a good thing. National Guard is separate, ICE is separate.
Question for you, Chairman. You just said you said something I want to expound. You've been working with the federal government during this surge
and before
that was brought by President Trump and before. So you've been working with him through this entire time.
With the federal, like DEA, FBI, MPS, Park Police.
Mayor Bowser, you would concur that you guys have been working with the President of the United States throughout this entire period, correct?
Mr. Donalds, you know I work with every president.
I know, but I'm trying to establish a baseline.
In Trump 1 and in Trump 2.
And I thank you for that, Mayor Bowser.
Yes, that is our job. As do all of we all stand ready to work with we're unique. The District of Columbia is unique in that we're always going to have a relationship.
Mayor Bowser, I'm out of time, so I got to reclaim. I apologize.
Yep.
I agree, Mayor Bowser.
Yes.
The district is unique. The district is not like any other city in the United States. It is the federal enclave. I commend you and your team for working with the President of the United States to keep the district safe. I really do. I think it's important for a lot of people who are saying that they're upset with the president, that your own mayor and your own chairman of the city council has acknowledged that crime has gone down while working with the president. Let's work together. Let's give peace a chance. I yield back.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
That was during the hearing yesterday. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer here, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. The Miami Dolphins are now 0-3 after losing last night 31-21 to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, New York. I tell you what, the Dolphins, they looked better than they have looked. It was a shootout early. They were, the defense was stepping up when they needed to and doing some things to hold Josh Allen, at least keep him in check. But the Dolphins ended up losing their momentum late. Tua threw a costly interception late in the game, and the Dolphins ended up losing again 31-21. They are now winless, and then next week we'll host the Jets on Monday Night Football. But we heard last night from head coach Mike McDaniel to talk about some of what went right and what went wrong in a season that has been off to a tough start for those Miami Dolphins.
It feels like we lost a game. It's not really, our expectation was to come in here and win the game, and we knew we had to not turn the ball over, and we knew we had to, try to get at least plus or at least even with them in the takeaway department, and we had to play good football, make some plays, and. We had a turnover in a critical situation. We had a critical penalty against on a punt, and those types of things can, that's how these types of games are decided. So it feels like a loss, and feels like we have a lot of motivation to get back to work. For our next opponent.
Mike, it looked like the game plan was to try to run the football, pound the football. But you did a pretty good job of that. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, there was some good moments. I think the guys ran hard. I think Devon and Ollie and guys were connected against a high strain team, which leads to some extra yardage. There's some, you worry when I think it was the second quarter, you get a couple 3 and outs, and you get a little frustrated not being able to get the opportunities, but guys made the most of them. We got to improve to get this in the right direction. Yeah, I wanted to protect the ball. I wish I could, I think the quarterback has to be responsible for it. However, I wish I could just put it on him, but I think it's a tough job to do when there's someone in your face. We need everybody needs to do better, and we can't, if you got to ditch the ball to the flat in moments like that, and that's what we have to learn from.
What's your frustration after 3 games of not having a win and just feeling like you're getting better every week, but it's just not turning out your way?
Yeah, I would say that it's frustration that turns to focus. I would say that I'm very focused and motivated to continue eliminating things that cost us games. And you have a young team, a lot of people that you're counting on, and you need them to not be young for very much longer and continue to grow. But I would say focus, because I know I have a locker room that is all in to grow through the process, and that's there's some tough lessons or tough things you have to deal with in the National Football League, and you know, to be successful in it, you have to not have things. I say it all the time, but you can't have things just cause you failure and it be in vain. You have to have consistent growth, and you have to be able to go through tough times and not splinter. And so the team has shown me that, and we'll need that to get the results that we want. And you know, I think that's the biggest thing is a collective focus on our game to continue to improve it so that we can be on the right side of the win column.
Well, hopefully they can turn things around. A good way to do that might be against the Jets next Monday. Likely the Jets will also be 0-3. They play the Buccaneers this weekend. They're already 0-2 and again playing the Bucs, so we'll see. But it could be a Monday night football matchup with two winless teams, but hopefully a chance for the Dolphins to turn some things around. We'll see. You got to think Mike McDaniel's in the hot seat if they continue to struggle like they are right now. Well, we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be back at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock with Florida Live. Our TV audience will join us as well. So keep it right here for more news. It's next right here on Fox Local.